My fellow Americans.
Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
A man holds in his mortal hand the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
He says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that.
Like soiled bed sheets and shit from Trump. And I'm just trying to hide all these gross, poopy sheets.
We didn't think about that, but yeah, that makes sense. If he does
Throw it out
like
the
go,
window.
that would be crazy.
You know crickets and grasshoppers?
Do I know them on a
Yeah, do you
personal
know
level?
them? You friends with any?
Well, I know a
They're
joke
not
about
big.
one.
Yeah.
Why?
And I saw this like huge grasshopper or cricket on our door, our screen door. And it's like the biggest one I've ever seen. I'm sure there are big ones, but this is the biggest one I've ever seen. And it had like red striped legs.
That's weird.
Is that weird?
Yeah.
Look that up.
Why do I always have to look this up? I'm rolling a blunt.
You're the host and the G.
I'm the Joe Rogan and the Jamie.
Yeah.
They say that those things are good luck, so that's good.
Whoa.
What?
Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, David Lynch's movie based on the show. It got a 10-minute boo
That's crazy.
at the Cannes Film Festival. That's what makes me like really just not respect anybody who cares that much about film. It's like you probably will boo something that's a masterpiece one day.
I mean, they probably have. Let's see what happens. Let's see what it's like. Imagine if all those people are obsessed with Twin Peaks and they're just like, this isn't what we wanted.
It's called a red-legged grasshopper.
Nice. That makes sense. Grasshoppers are good luck, so there you go.
Cool.
Yeah.
I finished Valis, dude.
Did you? I started a video game, and it's pretty good.
Which one?
But Kingdom Come Deliverance.
You just started Kingdom Come Deliverance?
Yeah.
Do you know there's a sequel out, right?
Yeah.
So that's awesome. All right, Kingdom Come Deliverance is one of the most in-depth RPGs out there.
Oh, I
Open
love it
world
already.
games. Yeah, dude. It's like you can go slow at sometimes, and it can speed up whenever you want it to.
Yeah, I didn't know Bianca was going to die right away.
Yeah.
I
But dude,
thought I was going to have a little bit of time.
the sequel's apparently even better, and I loved the first one. I just never played the sequel. It's such an investment to play that game, so I just haven't bought the second one yet.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a picture online. It was like the developers posting the script for the second game for the sequel.
Yep.
It's a whole table. It's like
That's funny.
a 4-foot stack of papers. I forgot what it was exactly. I might be exaggerating in my mind, but like it's an insane amount of script because the game's so big.
That's cool. Hello and welcome to As the World Burns. The president might be dead and we're all there with him. These are all the World War III headlines. Trump reportedly offered to hand Crimea and eastern Ukraine to Putin, Austria claims. Netanyahu treated for dehydration after eating spoiled food. Cambodia opens fire at a Thai military base. Russia cancels main naval parade after losing 33% of Black Sea Fleet in Ukrainian drone strikes. Russia to spend $1.1 trillion preparing for upcoming large-scale war, Ukraine's intel chief says. China supplies Russia with drone engines under guise of refrigerators. New report, 35,000 children now missing from Ukraine. Russia forcibly re-educating. That's crazy. Poland says 32 people detained and suspected of coordinating with Russia for sabotage. And HIV rates among Russian soldiers surged 2,000% since start of full-scale invasion of Ukraine. I guess that's kind of a positive. Ukraine sends evidence of 10,000 Russian chemical attacks to Hague. And Russian state media article demands no Ukrainians be left alive. Qatar, Saudi, and Egypt join call for Hamas to disarm and give up Gaza rule. And Russia says Nazism is making a comeback in the West. I feel like that's like a year or two old quote. Trump makes threat against Canada after country pledges to recognize Palestinian state. And Trump increases tariffs on Canada to 35%, White House says. Netanyahu has decided on full occupation of Gaza Strip. It's been a pretty crazy month. Amid Trump's tariff shock, India informs U.S. it won't purchase F-35 fighter jets. Russia lost 50,000 troops but failed to break Ukrainian defenses in a stadium of death near Torets. And Trump orders nuclear subs move near Russia. Trump accused of attack on Brazilian democracy after sanctioning Bolsonaro trial. Russia mocks Trump tariff threats as neo-colonial agenda. America unable to accept erosion of its dominance. And Ukraine gains secrets of Russia's newest nuclear sub, Knyaz-Poharsky. Its schematics and combat orders are leaked. Ukraine flags Indian-made parts and drones used by Russian forces, and Ukraine's intel wipes out 334 Russian soldiers in Sumy and foils new offensive. Holy shit. I didn't realize I had so much. Sorry. Let me get to the better ones. China reacts to Trump-Putin meeting without Ukraine. Russia found 1,000 old tanks in Siberia. Russia hacker seize control of Norwegian dam, spy chief says. U.S. and Russia suggest West Bank-style occupation of Ukraine, report says. Zelensky insists Ukraine will not pull its forces out of Donbass, and Team Trump is actually drawing up attack plans for Mexico. That's insane. Russian forces thank Trump. I mean, we already kind of know that that's happening, but that's still crazy. Russian forces thank Trump by flying U.S. flags in Ukraine. Zelensky responds to Trump comments, Russia must end war it started. Netanyahu, Israel will conquer Gaza regardless of whether Hamas accepts hostage deal. China teases a new generation of weapons. That sounds cool. Putin is laughing after Trump's peace efforts, says EU's top diplomat. Zelensky, Ukraine does not need U.S. permission to strike Russia. And 25 countries suspend postal services to U.S. over tariffs. Parts of Russia face gasoline shortages after the Ukraine struck refineries. And Ukraine now has its own weapons to strike deep into Russia without U.S. approval, Zelensky says. And Denmark demands U.S. answers to new Greenland allegations, which, for anyone that didn't hear, apparently, like, the U.S. has been, like, spreading influence in, like, Greenland, trying to, like, get the people to, like, want them to, like, switch over to, like, the U.S. instead. So that's kind of funny, in a way. Kind of crazy, too.
Well,
Greenland is basically like the U.S. Like the U.S. administration is like sending like influencers and people in Greenland to basically like influence the populace to basically try and like push like a more of a higher narrative to like push the U.S. to be a part of Greenland or vice versa.
now, is that where NASA filmed the Mars footage, or is that Iceland?
Well, supposedly it's Greenland and Canada. So that's why he might want Greenland and Canada, because that's where Mars is. I actually think, no, it's more for strategic purposes. But who knows? But that is where that is.
That is where that is.
That is where that is. The next few articles, Living in America, U.S. destroyers head toward waters off Venezuela as Trump aims to pressure drug cartels. Walmart says tariff costs are rising each week and will continue. And appeals court throws out Trump's $454 million civil fraud judgment. Trump administration reviewing all 55 million people with U.S. visas for potential deportable violations. And closure of Florida's Alligator Alcatraz Immigration Detention Center can proceed, judge said.
You say closure?
I guess so. I guess that's some good news. It just didn't.
I heard there was like some
like flooding and shit.
Yeah, there's flooding. There's a bunch of things going on. I heard there's been a bunch of petitions to get it closed for different reasons, and I heard one finally went through. So a judge finally agreed that like yes, we can shut this place down.
Well, it's wild because it's only like a month or two old.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it should even be a thing, but that's just amazing that it only lasted that long before somebody shut it down. Here's a little bit of normalish news. Russia's Klayeshka, I don't know if I can say this one. Klayeshskoy volcano starts erupting after earthquake. A lot of people there's been actually like a conspiracy that a lot of people think that the Russian earthquake that they've been getting, like all the earthquakes they've been getting recently, have been like the US, like actually like or like weather influencing technology, like messing with the fault lines over there.
I don't know. I think if anything, it's like kind of like how it is here, where we hear loud banging and weird earthquakes. It's because of the shit they're doing underground.
They also think it could be something like that, but I mean, even if they were doing that, that would be like wicked illegal. That'd be against the Geneva Convention.
I would lean toward Russia nuking pockets underneath the earth to expand.
Yeah, that would make sense too.
That's what I would do if I owned a whole country, if I had my own country.
Especially with such huge space.
Because they could, like, what they could be doing is they could do that, right? And, like, make a whole country as big, which is crazy because that's always kind of pissed me off about Russia constantly trying to take territory. Look how big you are. It's like a fat guy who's, like, really mad that you took the last piece of something after you just watched him eat a bunch of food. You're like, dude, like, can I just enjoy this? Like, I know you really like it and you really want more, but, like, what the fuck? You do
why not trade some of that like land for some other land? You know what I mean?
Isn't there some land you don't need? Come on. Anyway,
that was a good metaphor.
Underneath their country, then they could expand that on whatever tectonic plate that they're on.
That's a good idea.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know. I think I think you hit the nail on the head with that like gluttonous metaphor.
Yeah.
That was a good one. But it's true, like Russia could like do so much with their land. Maybe they are. Maybe all that land is like taken over by crazy like entities and aliens and shit, and that's why nobody goes there.
Russia?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like
that's the plot to destroy all humans too.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, in one of the scenes you go to Russia and they have Yetis, and Yetis are actually Martians that got into a war with Crypto's species like eons ago, and they crashed in Tunguska, and all the Yetis are basically like the Martian aliens that are just spread around from the crashed alien ship.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I really love that game, honestly. That's one of my favorite games. Scientists are now 43 seconds closer to producing limitless energy. A twisted reactor in Germany just smashed a nuclear fusion record. We're probably closer than 43 seconds at this point. But that's cool for the reactor. I was reading a little bit about it, and I guess it's like this small nuclear fusion reactor that they created, like something that is able to like almost produce limitless energy. So that's cool. Trump is masquerading as a human, says Jack White, as White House goes on the attack. I put that one in normalish news, but we could have put that in conspiracy news.
Yeah. I mean, I have to assume he was just like...
being facetious?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think honestly, and I love Jack White, but I mean, I think they're both like knocking on like weird shit in Hollywood and stuff like that. I'm sure Jack White's got some skeletons in his closet. Although I don't know. Maybe not. He seems like he might be outside of that zeitgeist too. Here's an interesting article. There's something very dark happening to millennials and Gen Z adults. American millennials are dying at an alarming rate. Want to hear about this one?
I saw that article, but I did not click.
Let's read it. About 3 million Americans die every year compared with other rich countries. We die at an alarmingly higher rate. 1/4 of those deaths wouldn't have occurred if America were only as deadly as its peers. Zoom in and things get more concerning. Among Americans younger than 65, almost half of death wouldn't happen if we had a death rate that matched our peers. Among those aged 25 to 44, a group we call early adults, at 65%, nearly 2 out of 3 deaths at those early ages. We're mortality experts, and these facts stem from an analysis we did of death rates in 22 countries from 1980 through 2023, the last year with reliable data. When we set out to do this research, we expected to find a story about the COVID-19 pandemic. America's pandemic experience was much worse than that of our peers, with the 3 U.S. deaths for every 2 in peer countries. Non-elderly Americans, in particular, were hit harder than non-elderly populations in other rich countries. This disadvantage only grew as vaccinations became available but were adopted by Americans at lower rates. But what surprised us was that from today's post-pandemic vantage point, the American health disadvantage doesn't look like a pandemic story at all. The U.S. mortality disadvantage has been growing at about the same rate for years. While it spiked during COVID-19, it still continues to rise. Here's another way to put this. In 2023, there were about 700,000 missing Americans, those who died in 2023 but would be alive if they had lived somewhere else. And that 700,000 is almost exactly the number that we could have predicted back in 2019 based solely on pre-pandemic trends. COVID and relatively low vaccine adoption are a problem for Americans, but our country seems to be at a deeper level, a deadly place to live. What's more, all of the studies we have to stop before Donald Trump began his second term with enormous cuts to medical and health research and now to Medicaid. There is a heated and productive debate about exactly why the U.S. is so much worse than our peers at keeping its populace alive. One influential theory focuses on deindustrialization and the way that Americans without a college degree in particular have been left behind. Another focuses on the way that social safety nets in this country, such as unemployment, sickness, and pensions, remain small and inefficient compared with other wealthy nations. Others point to problems in the U.S. healthcare system, such as uninsurance, underinsurance, and high co-payments and deductibles. Still others highlight America's permissive gun laws and the large amount of time we spend in our cars, and chronic diseases and caused by nutritional policy failures. These theories, which aren't mutually exclusive, all predate COVID-19 and offer plausible explanations for the growing U.S. mortality disadvantage. Our research also uncovered one population for whom the pandemic does look like a lot longer-term turning point for the worse. That population is a worrisome one, Americans early in their adulthood. Those aged 25 to 44, that is millennials as well as some older members of Gen Z. Before 2010, the estimated lifespan for American early adults increased every year. Deaths from HIV and cancer were plummeting. Homicides had fallen dramatically, and fatalities from circulatory disease, a major cause of death at every adult age, were also falling in this age group. But sometime after 2010, for almost every cause of death, this changed. Early adults proved susceptible to drug overdose deaths as synthetic fentanyl swept the country, but also became increasingly likely to die in car collisions and from digestive diseases and diabetes, and stopped making much progress in death rates from circulatory disease. Just as for other adult age groups, when COVID-19 arrived in 2020 and 21, mortality increased markedly among early adults. Alongside COVID-19 deaths were major increases in deaths from drug overdose, transportation, alcohol, homicide, circulatory disease, suicide, and other causes, as the country's social structures and health system buckled under the stress of the pandemic. But when the other adults' death rates plummeted after the pandemic, early adults only lost a little half over the additional deaths that the pandemic years had brought. Before the pandemic, early adults' mortality trends closely mirrored other adult age groups. Since COVID-19, their increased mortality is unique. The result of all this, by 2023, American early adults' chance of dying was 70% higher than it would have been had the life-saving trends of the early 2000s continued. And this leaves them 2.6 times as likely to die as early as adults in other rich countries. Amid declining economic prospects and future optimism among younger American adults, perhaps no statistic more starkly captures the disadvantage of entering adulthood in the U.S. today. We don't know exactly why this is happening. Some changes related to the pandemic seem relatively obvious: employment loss and insecurity that disproportionately impacted younger workers, increased alcohol consumption and drug use, and coincide with higher rates of depression and continue to distinctly affect early adults following the peak pandemic. This age group experienced hardships during COVID-19 that are difficult to bounce back from. All right, so interesting. They're saying it's a lot of it's economic and health inequalities and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, that I could have told you all that. That's why a lot of this shit is happening where people are kind of pissed, you know? People are kind of pissed, you know? But that was an interesting one. Italy arrests Ukrainian in Nord Stream pipeline attacks. Interesting.
One person does not represent a people.
Yeah, no, of course not. All right. Now into the real meat and potatoes. This is the real important shit. And by that, I mean, this is our weird shit category. This is, why I prefer to do this, this episode in general. This is like, just all the weird shit going on. Stop me if you got one that you want to read. Scientists in South Africa are making rhino horns radioactive to fight poaching. I thought that one was pretty cool. Yeah. Robot bunnies deployed in Florida to fight invasive pythons. So that's a pretty interesting idea. Earth pulsates every 26 seconds and no one knows why. It's got a heartbeat. Mass baby graves being excavated in Ireland decades after discovery of Catholic-run home. There's always mass baby graves popping up somewhere because of some crazy shit that happened at some period of time at some place.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of babies used to die.
Yeah. That is true. Scientists say alien signals most likely during planetary alignments. That's a pretty cool one.
That is a cool one.
Yeah. I wonder why that is. I wonder if there's something to do with like the planets projecting the signal like to like a higher, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If the signal gets captured by the planets and it's able to bounce off it, basically, like use it as an antenna, that would almost lend credence to the conspiracy theory that Saturn is like an antenna for our souls.
Yeah. What's up with Saturn?
What is it?
What's up with that? Just can you do a quick little explanation on Saturn and why that's like a keyword?
Well, apparently there's like the black cube of Saturn, and apparently like people that worship Saturn, it's also like where like Satan comes from, the name, and it's the morning star. It's like apparently it's what you see when you wake up or something like that. I don't know if I could be mixing up a bunch of stuff here, but the idea I think is that Saturn is like supposedly, like the conspiracy goes, is it's a satellite that like is part of the prison planet dynamic that we live on, and it's used to capture our souls or something like that. And it's when you die, when you see the light and all that shit, supposedly it's like a trap. Well, supposedly Saturn is like helping to create that trap. It's like the satellite in space that's like the aliens are using to perpetuate it. Interesting, but who knows what the real case is, but who knows? Maybe it's not a good idea to go into the light. I don't know. A record-breaking baby has been born from an embryo that's over 30 years old. And we started that one, so want to read it?
Yeah.
All right, this is coming from technologyreview.com. The embryos were created in 1994 while the expectant father was still a toddler and donated via Christian Embryo Adoption Agency. That's weird. The kid was still he was a little kid, or he was a baby when they took his sperm. So does that mean that I think that's what that.
What?
The embryos were created in 1994 while the expectant father was still a toddler and donated via a Christian Embryo Adoption Agency. Is that what that means?
That's
insane. I don't know. A baby boy born over the weekend holds the new record for the oldest baby. Thaddeus Daniel Pierce, who arrived on July 26, developed from an embryo that had been in storage for 30 and a half years. We had a rough birth, but we are both doing well now, says Lindsay Pierce, his mother. He is so chill. We're in awe that we have this precious baby. Lindsay and her husband, Tim Pierce, who live in London, Ohio, adopted the embryo from a woman who had it created in 1994. Of course, it's Ohio. She says her family and church family think it's something from a sci-fi movie. It's something from a sci-fi movie. The baby has a 30-year-old sister, she adds. Tim was a toddler when the embryos were first created. It's been pretty surreal, says Linda Archard, 62, who donated the embryo. It's hard to even believe. The story starts back in the early 90s. Archard had been trying and failing to get pregnant for 6 years. She and her husband decided to try IVF, a fairly new tech at the time. People were unfamiliar with it, says Archard. A lot of people were like, "What are you doing?" They did it anyway, and in May 1994, they managed to create 4 embryos. One of them was transferred to Linda's uterus. It resulted in a healthy baby girl. I was so blessed to have a baby, Archard says. The remaining 3 embryos were cryopreserved and kept in a storage tank. That was 31 years ago. The healthy baby girl is now a 30-year-old woman who has her own 10-year-old daughter. The other 3 embryos remained frozen in time. Archard originally planned to use the embryo herself. I always wanted to have another baby desperately, she says. I called them my 3 little hopes. Her then husband felt differently, she says. Archard went on to divorce him, but she won custody of the embryos and kept them in storage, still hopeful she might use them one day, perhaps with another partner. That meant paying annual storage fees with increased over time and ended up costing Archard around $1,000 a year, she says. To her, it was worth it. I always thought it was the right thing to do, she says. Things changed when she started going through menopause, she says. She considered her options. She didn't want to discard the embryos or donate them for research, and she didn't want to donate them to another family anonymously. She wanted to meet the parents and any resulting babies. It's my DNA and it came from me, and it's my daughter's sibling, she says. Then she found out about the embryo adoption. It's a type of embryo donated in which both donors and recipients have a say in whom they place their embryos with or adopt them from. It is overseen by agencies, usually explicitly religious ones, that believe an embryo is morally equivalent to a born human. Archard is a Christian. There are several agencies that offer these adoption services in the U.S., but not all of them accept embryos that have been stored for a very long time. That's partly because those embryos will have been frozen and stored in unfamiliar, old-fashioned ways, and partly because old embryos are thought to be less likely to survive thawing and transfer successfully develop into a baby. So many places wouldn't even take my information, says Archard. Then she came across the Snowflakes program run by the Nightlight Christian Adoption Agency. The agency was willing to accept her embryos, but it's so weird that there's so many like Christian adoption agencies and shit that are into this stuff. That's gotta be like some Sikh skunk works type shit.
You know better than me.
You know what I'm saying though? Like there's got to be something to the fact that all these like Christian organizations are getting into these weird like scientific embryo things. I don't know. That's just odd to me. That's like the weirdest thing about this whole story, I feel like.
Well, you know the Vatican.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. So Archard called the fertility doctor who had treated her decades before. I still remembered his phone number by heart, she says. That doctor, now in his 70s, is still practicing at a clinic in Oregon. He dug Archard's records out from his basement, she says. Some of them were handwritten, she adds. Her embryos entered Nightlight's matching pool in 2022. Wow. All right. I think we get the gist of it, but that's pretty crazy.
You know what's depressing? What's kind of sad, depressing, but interesting, is that there's some of they have been looking into like all these crazy sciences and all these crazy ideas, almost sci-fi, because they've always been some of the lead people to like look into science.
Mm-hmm.
They're like they always had their own scientists looking into.
They kind of
God's
had to debunk it.
Exactly, too. Like that. Some of the before America, anything about science had to go through them.
That's why Galileo got like locked up, didn't he?
Yep. Isn't that crazy?
For stating something that became just a well-known fact eventually, hundreds of years later. Yeah, that is crazy. Here's an interesting one. This makes me think of the movie The Butterfly Effect. Your consciousness can jump through time, meaning gut feelings or memories from the future, scientists say. First of all, what scientists are saying that?
Plenty.
You know what's funny is I just talked all that shit, but it's popularmechanics.com. I don't feel like going into it. It's another paywall. Man killed 12,000 years ago with quartz-tipped arrow. I thought this was pretty fucking cool. They found some guy's body who was killed 12,000 years ago with a quartz-tipped arrow. Here's a funny one. Taco Bell rethinks AI drive-thru after man orders 18,000 waters. That's funny.
Damn.
I know. I wonder if that was on purpose or by accident. Bones found during... What is it?
online payment on drive-through, like an online order, or
It must have been something like that.
no? Man, he probably just asked for it.
We're literally going to turn into idiocracy. Like, that's literally what's happening. Like, remember in Idiocracy when he goes to the hospital and, like, everything for the most part's, like, AI driven? And, like, it's like one of those floor cleaner things just hitting, like, a wall and saying, your floor is now clean over and over again. That's going to be, like, some of the future.
What I think the difference between our reality and Idiocracy is going to be is that like there is something that we're getting to. Like we are always just advanced. They kind of got stagnant. I don't think we're going to get stagnant.
I don't think we're
might
going to
be
get
more
that
future
stagnant.
people, but I think like there's like crazy shit we're realizing about reality, and we're realizing really fast.
That's what I was just about to say, is that the reality of Idiocracy got stagnant because science kind of got stagnant. I don't think science is getting stagnant. I think it's getting more dangerous and more like in our faces. That being a reality, we have to constantly evolve ourselves. Otherwise, we're going to destroy ourselves.
Yeah.
Bones found during manhunt for Travis Decker, missing father, suspected of killing 3 daughters. That shit's crazy. Bear found behind counter of a South Lake Tahoe ice cream shop. I mean, that's something expected from a South Lake Tahoe ice cream shop. That's barely even news. A researcher just captured a solar tornado and a massive plasma eruption at the same time. That's pretty cool. Man who faked death fled U.S. gets 89 days in jail for the 89 days he was missing. I remember we talked a little bit about that one. That's pretty crazy. It seems extremely lenient for a judge. Like, that almost just seems like the judge was like, all right, you want to fuck around and find out? Well, now you're gonna... It's almost like a little kid punishment. Like, he could have gotten way worse. You know?
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg gifted noise-canceling headphones to his Palo Alto neighbors because of the nonstop construction around his 11 homes. It'd be nice to be that rich. It's like you got a problem, you solve it just by throwing money at it. It's not even your problem either. It's just a problem that you're creating. California resident tests positive for the plague after camping, officials say. Now, we talked about this, like a squirrel tested positive or whatever. Did we talk about that in the last episode, or did we talk about that just recently? I forgot.
I think that may have just been us talking about it recently.
Oh, yeah. Well, the plague is popping up in a California wooded area again, but that shouldn't be too big of a deal, though, because, you know, we've talked about this. It pops up in California every now and then. I guess the California woods are ripe with the plague, so we should just expect it.
I told you I heard about plague popping up in California, like, I think years ago.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it for some reason, it pops up there specifically, of all places, like every so often, which is weird because, like, with California, you'd expect it to be, like, dry enough where, like, not a lot of, like, bacteria would grow too much, but maybe in, like, the wooded area, it's a little more rife with, like, bacteria and shit. I don't know. Religious sect protests to protect pigeons' right to be fed. Well, obviously, I think a pigeon should be able to be fed if it wants to be fed, just as long as it doesn't hurt anybody in the process. I don't know. Thousands of pounds of hot dogs strewn across the highway. It's been kind of a wacky month, honestly. A lot of cartoonish mishaps. California district attorney resigns after ex-client says he sold him meth for years. Like that. That one's a pretty cartoonish scenario. I bet you this guy has a story. District Attorney of Mariposa County, the home of Yosemite National Park, abruptly resigned last week after a local newspaper handed the county sheriff a trove of text messages that allegedly show the attorney buying meth dozens of times from a Marquette man he previously prosecuted and defended in separate cases. That's hilarious. He prosecuted and defended that guy. District Attorney Mike McAfee stepped down August 11th, just 3 days after the Mariposa Gazette gave Sheriff Jeremy Brias more than 30 text exchanges provided by Gary Shisnewski. That's a funny name. A troubled 49-year-old with a long criminal history, including multiple restraining orders. Shisnewski told the paper he sold meth to McAfee 40 or 50 times. What? Over 2 years. I guess this guy had a lot of work being a California attorney. Brias told the Gazette that the case has been handed over to the California Attorney General's office, which is standard for criminal investigations of district attorneys. SF Gate reached out to Mariposa County Sheriff's Office and the California Attorney General's office, but neither replied prior to the publication. The text published by the Gazette, some of which included type McAfee asking for, quote, the usual energy pack, or a, quote, a little pick-me-up, often arranging drop-offs at his Marquette home or along his commute to Mariposa. On April 16th, McAfee allegedly asked Shisnewski to meet him at a middle school in Marquette to buy from him, the Gazette reported. Their relationship began years earlier in a courtroom. Shisnewski told the Gazette he first encountered McAfee in 2017 when McAfee prosecuted him in Marquette County on a drug paraphernalia charge. Later, when McAfee entered a private practice, he defended Shisnewski in a separate case. The two eventually golfed together, and Shisnewski said that's when McAfee first asked if he could get party favors. From there, Shisnewski alleged the prosecutor became his only customer. I felt I had to sell drugs or he would have fucked with me, he told the Gazette. McAfee did not deny the text when interviewed by the Gazette. He said, I told him to back off. I never said I'd put him in jail, the Gazette reported. When asked directly by the Gazette whether he bought meth from Shisnewski, McAfee answered, I'm not going to give that credence or answer such a stupid question. He said his decision to resign was not related to the release of the text. I think it's hilarious when they say it's not related to the thing going on. I mean, that's like the biggest like lie in saving face of all time. But it's like not saving face because you're just blatantly lying to everybody. On August 8th, a day after the Gazette handed over the text, 6 agents from Marquette Area Gang and Narcotic Enforcement Team seized Shisnewski's phone under a warrant signed by Marquette Superior Court Judge Mark Bassiarini. Agents told him he was not the target of the investigation. McAfee resigned 3 days later. His departure forced a delay of more than 20 criminal cases in Mariposa County Superior Court until supervisors named a replacement. On August 12th, the board unanimously appointed the county counsel Walter Wall, who previously held the role, to return as district attorney. Well, that was wild. An Estonian theater group stages Romeo and Juliet using trucks and excavators to play the role of the characters. Romeo is played by a rally truck and Juliet is played by a red Ford pickup. Just a bunch of silliness in Estonia. Fun. Yeah. Like, we got monster truck rallies over here. They're a little more classy over there. I think you mentioned that, like, you know, they're a little classier because they put on plays with their trucks.
Yeah, they're classier.
The Estonians, like Ari Matty and Kill Tony, wherever he's at. I haven't been keeping up. Scientists discover mysterious aligned objects in Earth's orbit decades before first satellite. That one sounds interesting. All right, basically just saying there's actually a lot more artificial objects up in the orbit than we could have anticipated that could be up there, and there could be signs of extraterrestrial intelligence up there from those objects orbiting. I'm just skipping through some of it and reading it and kind of, because there's a lot of stuff on this. Interesting though. Let's see. Pizzeria mishap left at least 85 people intoxicated with THC after infused oil used for dough. Well, that's fun. Yeah. That honestly kind of did you say I'm going to hell?
They're going to hell.
They're going to hell. The people that did that are going to hell, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's definitely a bad idea to poison people in any kind of way or drug people. I consider drugging people to be poisoning people because you're changing their body chemistry in general. So, you know, you're fucking with them.
Not cool.
Not cool at all. Old master painting looted by Nazis spotted in Argentinian auction listing. So that's crazy. Apparently they tried to hide for so long, but were found out because they put a listing in there. but that's pretty crazy. Somebody on Reddit goes, Argentina is the first place to look for Nazi loot.
No, they are not.
I mean, it would make sense considering that's where all the Nazis went after the war. That and every major government, I should say scientists specifically, the officers are the ones that went to like South America.
Were Nazis just allowed to have everything that they had and just bring it wherever they wanted to? I'm not even saying it's possible. I'm just wondering.
Well, no, yeah, I know you're asking, but I'm thinking that the ones that were on the run, they knew they needed something to like for cash or like something as like some kind of like you know what I mean? Some people carry like gold bars and shit like that, and then that'll like they'll be able to trade that in and get some money out of that. I would imagine, or like insurance, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Maybe they carried like all this loot with them as insurance in case they needed some extra money sometime. They wanted to sell it on the black market or something like that. Maybe a lot of them realized that if they did that, it'd be too risky and they'd be found out. So a lot of them ended up just hoarding their stuff after a while. That's just like, you know, that's just the theory, I guess. You know, there's a joke that I wanted to say.
Say it.
Let me see. You know, you don't need a parachute to go skydiving, but you do need a parachute to go skydiving twice. And I think that that fits this next one. Experienced skydiver deliberately fell to her death, coroner finds.
That's awful.
Jade Damrell, 32, died of blunt trauma injuries after falling from 15,500 feet into a field in County Durham in April. I mean, this happened in April, but this article's from this month. An experienced skydiver deliberately fell to her death in April after ending her relationship with her partner the night before. An inquest was heard. Oh, that's crazy.
That's suspicious.
Yeah. Imagine the partner went up there, like he was clocked in, he was up there, and he just like, he cut the chute or whatever.
Yeah, weird.
On her final jump, however, the inquest was told that DeMerrill had deliberately not deployed her main parachute, which is usually opened at about 5,000 feet. She had also turned off a device designed to automatically deploy a parachute at a certain speed or altitude, should a skydiver be unable to do so. The parachute and device were found to be in full working order. The inquest heard that Damrell normally wore a camera to capture her dives, but was not wearing one on the day she died. Hamilton concluded Damrell had a very experienced skydiver had intended to end her own life. That's crazy.
Damn.
Imagine the idea that you're like going that fast, like falling to the earth, like from that height, and like you just are deliberately doing it. That's crazy. Oh my God. That is nuts. A zoo in Denmark is inviting people to donate their small pets they don't want anymore as food for captive predators. That's crazy.
Honest business.
That's business. You're like, hey, you don't want your small dogs or cats anymore? Just bring them in. We'll feed them to the bears. No, I think a bear probably wouldn't even give a shit about like a cat. They'd probably just look at a cat and be like, just like grunt or something. A zoo in Denmark, Walmart recalls possibly radioactive shrimp after public warned not to eat. Now I heard, we kind of talked about this, but we didn't really get into why it was radioactive. I wonder why.
Look it up.
Is it maybe because of Fukushima? Are things still radioactive because of Fukushima?
Look it up.
Oh, here we go. I think I get it. Walmart has recalled some of its shrimp products in the U.S. after radioactive material was detected in a shipment of seafood. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration warned the public not to eat frozen shrimp sold under Walmart's Great Value label, as it could have been exposed to a dangerous isotope in shipping containers. One sample of breaded shrimp tested positive for the substance, the FDA said, but this positive sample did not enter U.S. commerce. Customers in 13 U.S. states where the shrimp products are sold to have been advised to throw any recently bought products among 3 batches to throw them away. The health and safety of our customers is always a top priority. Wouldn't just having that shrimp in your hand, wouldn't that expose you to wouldn't putting that in your fridge expose your fridge to radiation, and wouldn't that cause like your fridge possibly to get like dangerous levels of radiation?
I don't know.
I feel like that would happen. Like it would, because radiation just gets sucked up into everything. Literally, it attaches itself pretty much to everything. It's like the biggest mark. You know what I mean? The spokesperson added that consumers who bought the recalled products could visit any Walmart location for a full refund. Yo, imagine that they visit the Walmart location with this bag of radioactive shrimp. They give them to the Walmart people. The Walmart people, all right, let's throw them with the rest. And they just have this giant pile of radioactive shrimp that they're just getting rid of. Like, Jesus. Like, this is the future. We're going to have radioactive piles of shrimp just everywhere. We're going to have to bury radioactive shrimp somewhere in the desert until worms eat it and become radioactive. What is it?
It's not good.
It's not good. This is our cyberpunk future. Remember that. This is our cyberpunk future coming. This is one of those aspects that's going to come to the cyberpunk future. We're going to have to bury large amounts of radioactive shrimp every so often. It came from an Indonesian supplier that has since had a number of shipping containers denied entry to the U.S., the FDA said. One shipment tested positive for cesium-137, the radioactive form of the periodic element cesium. Why even say that? We know what that is. The amount contained in the tested shipment held by the FDA was not enough to pose acute harm to consumers. Oh, that's good. Exposure over time could pose an elevated risk of cancer by damaging living cells in the body, said officials from the agency. Cesium-137 is made through nuclear reactions and is present in trace amounts in food, soil, and air worldwide. It is one of the principal sources of radiation around Chernobyl in Ukraine and Fukushima in Japan. The FDA said no cesium-137 had been detected in other products it tested, but cautioned this did not rule out contamination. So I wonder how a shipping container like that gets so much radiation next to it or attached to it. You know what I mean? That right there is a story that we're not seeing. There's a flip side to this story where somebody was transporting something radioactive or something like that in a shipping container, and they knew about it and they looked for it, and suddenly they found another one that was right next to that contained shrimp or something like that, and they were able to figure out where that went. You know what I mean? There's definitely another side to this story. Like, they were looking for something to figure out that the shrimp was radioactive. That also makes me think that maybe we should have like a Geiger counter on us, because like, think of all the stuff that we eat from like international, like that gets shipped all the time, all over the place, that could be radioactive slightly.
I think that's actually a really good idea. I think people should have Geiger counters on them.
No, 100%. Like that should be like a thing. Like, people should like do that. I think it would help in situations like this. Like, let's say you go to the grocery store, you walk past like Goya beans, and all of a sudden you go beep, 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 beep. You're like, holy shit, Goya beans are highly radioactive right now. Maybe stay away from the Goya beans. What if you just walk through Walmart and the thing goes off because there's just radiation everywhere in Walmart? Then you know to just stay away from Walmart in general. That would also explain a lot if the entirety of Walmart was radioactive. Politico uncovers massive secret sunlight dimming plan. I mean, how is it a secret? They literally have something called Satan that they want to block out the sun. They tried to carry out a secret test to dim the sunlight over California. It went unannounced and lacked approval. The effort only stopped because local officials discovered it and forced a shutdown. But according to over 400 internal documents obtained by Politico, this was only the beginning. The same team was already planning something much larger, a 3,900 square mile experiment over open ocean using saltwater sprays to create artificial cloud cover and reflect sunlight away from the earth. The proposed zone was bigger than Puerto Rico. The internal records reviewed in detail by Politico's E! News show that this project was not merely theoretical. It had already entered the planning stage before the smaller California-based test was attempted. That test, carried out from the retired USS Hornet in Alameda, was halted by the city council after they learned about it from the press coverage. Alameda's mayor stated publicly that the city had not been informed, and council members expressed concern over the lack of transparency. The researchers behind the effort had secured access to the vessel but failed to coordinate with local government. That's interesting. That almost should have gone in the conspiracy section. That's crazy. Archaeologists found an entirely new language among the ruins of an ancient empire. Worm invades man's eyeball, leading to doctors to suck out his eye jelly. Well, that's fucked up. Meet the 5-time beer mile world champion. I knew I could chug from a young age. Remember we were talking about, like, if we do like a YouTube video, maybe our first YouTube video, like, of us would actually be just us chugging beers and having a beer chugging competition. That'd be fun.
Great at it.
Yeah. Well, you said you're good at chugging beers. Like, I don't know. I think I'm okay at chugging beers. I wouldn't say I'm fast, but I can do it. I feel like as soon as it would hit me, it would just fuck me up. Like, I would get fucked up, like, real quick. I mean, I guess that's the purpose, but still. I'm going to need some weed if I'm going to get that fucked up. 75-year-old Chinese man asks wife for divorce after falling in love with AI woman he saw online. That is also our cyberpunk future in action. It's amazing how many things, like, in the last year or two have happened that are very, like, they're very telling of where society is going to be at in just, like, the next 100 years. You know what I mean? Where things are really headed, like, where we knew things were going to be headed, but where they're really headed. That right there is one of them. Can't wait. I mean, I think, you know, I'm not talking shit about the future. I think the future is going to be amazing, and there's going to be so many good things if we can make it out, you know, through the next few years. You know, I'm hopeful that there's going to be some good things that I'm going to love about the future. But, you know what I mean? There's also going to be things like this where, like, old Chinese men are going to be like, oh, I'm talking to some random beautiful woman I met online, and in actuality it's just some AI bot or something that's just going to make him feel good until he donates all of his money and dies poor and alone. Yeah, you know, that right there is like kind of survival of the fittest, so you're kind of right. At that point, you know, if you're not paying attention to your wife and you're paying attention to this AI, it's like, well, what the fuck's wrong with you? What do you think about that, besides just how it's crazy?
That's like...
You see what I mean, though, with, like, the cyberpunk future shit, right?
I mean, absolutely. This is like that movie with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes, exactly. Except this dude thinks he's talking to a real person. That's the kick of it. He doesn't think he's even talking to a fake person. He doesn't realize that he's like an NPC at this point. Yeah. This old Chinese guy don't even know what NPCs are, but he's definitely one of them now. Earth's unusual rapid spin could prompt first ever negative leap second. I don't understand that. We talked about this. My theory is that maybe it reverses time by a second. Like how a leap year is when you have an extra day in a year that you add on to the day. Maybe this is an extra second that we're taking away from time, which is kind of crazy. If you think about it, that would be nuts.
That is nuts.
Since 2020, Earth has been rotating unusually fast on its axis, leading scientists to consider whether we should correct for the shorter days. The Earth has been spinning unusually fast recently. Last year on July 4th, our planet set a record by completing a full spin 1.66 milliseconds faster than usual. 1 year later, on July 10, 2025, Earth completed a daily rotation that scientists estimate was 1.36 milliseconds faster than usual, giving us another particularly short day. Other shorter but ever so slightly longer days occurred on July 9th and July 22nd, although the exact margins have yet to be confirmed. Losing a couple of milliseconds may seem insignificant to most of us, perhaps justifiably so, but tiny error margins in time can mess up systems that can depend on extremely precise calculations, such as high-speed communication networks, GPS, or banking systems. As such, scientific timekeepers are usually sophisticated atomic clocks set to the standard via the Coordinated Universal Time. But with the recent acceleration in Earth's rotation, the need for a negative leap second has reemerged among some timekeeping experts. Scientists regularly apply a leap second to keep the UTC synchronized with astronomical time, which they base on Earth's rotation. A full day on Earth, the time it takes our planet to complete one full rotation on its axis, lasts for 86,400 seconds. But factors such as the sun's position, the moon's orbit, the Earth's gravitational field influence how quickly the Earth completes its daily cycle. As a result, the Earth's rotation ends up being irregular, and slight differences between the UTC and astronomical time can add up in the long run, causing a mismatch between the two. Interesting. So time fluctuates. That's kind of what I'm getting out of this, is that time is based on the moon and the sun and shit, so it's constantly fluctuating, right? That's kind of what's
based on the moon.
Well, it says that a full day on
You
Earth.
sound crazy.
A full day on Earth, the time it takes our planet to complete one full rotation on its axis lasts for 86,400 seconds. But factors such as the sun's position, the moon's orbit, and the Earth's gravitational field influence how quickly the Earth completes its daily cycle. I mean, that's just basic knowledge. Like, you know, when in winter we have like really short days, and in summer we have like really long days or whatever. Or maybe I have that backwards. I think that's how it is, right?
Yes.
So it's saying that kind of idea fluctuates, but that's kind of cool. But time does fluctuate. I'm telling you.
Not time.
I know it's not time. It's the perception of the Earth's rotation. Not time, but like the Earth's cycle that we should adopt for that, or we should adapt to that more clearly. JWST detects toxic Earth-like gases on K218b. I thought this was old news. Oh, here's another one. I should have put these two together. Excavation begins in Poland for alleged Nazi gold hoard. Following an application made to the municipal... This would be another place where you'd probably find a lot of Nazi gold, is South America and Poland. A group of researchers have been granted permission to excavate a suspected World War II German bunker rumored to contain a hidden trove of Nazi gold and looted art. How is it a suspected World War II bunker? They haven't figured that out yet. Permission was granted by the Pomeranian Provincial Conservator of Monuments, allowing the group led by amateur historian Jan Dylingowski to investigate a wooded area in the Kashuba region once home to an SS military training ground. Rumors of a hidden board originate from a former inmate of Barzuo prison who claims he met with Erich Koch, a Gauleiter of the Nazi Party, during his confinement. Koch stood trial in Poland and was convicted in 1959 of war crimes and sentenced to death. The sentence was later commuted to life in Barzuo prison. I gotta figure out how to say that. Barzuo. According to the former inmate, Koch confided that a convoy of trucks filled with gold and priceless art was rerouted away from Berlin in 1945 and diverted to the near towns of Kursk, Zursk, and Zlakau. Dylingowski explains that this theory is supported by SS telegram reportedly addressed to Gustav Wist, which refers to a site coded as BSCH. Dylingowski believes this refers to Bruff Schutzraum, a type of underground bunker complex. In the application made to municipal office in Warburg, Dylingowski reports that geodetic data has revealed a tunnel with a cross-section of approximately 9 meters wide by 9 meters in height. Dylingowski claims that within the tunnel are 3 World War II-era railway freight wagons. Each wagon is approximately 12 meters long, 4 meters wide, and 4 meters high. The wagons are concealed behind a closed sliding steel gate at the tunnel entrance. The wagons contain valuable precious metals, including gold, added Dylan Gowski. Excavations are scheduled to begin later this month under supervision from regional heritage authorities and with assistance from trained archaeologists. Our goal is to uncover the truth of these stories while protecting this historic landscape, said Anna Kowalska, a spokesperson for the Pomeranian Conservator. That was pretty cool. Some real life Indiana Jones shit right there. It's funny because I almost pictured that in my head, like the Nazis driving the trucks or whatever it was, and then getting told that they have to reroute to an underground bunker, and then just sealing this underground bunker, and then just going to their graves without ever talking about it. Senate confirms former Air Force pilot and UFO witness Matthew Lomare as the new Undersecretary of the Air Force. I feel like I could be wrong, but that might have been a headline that we went over at the beginning in the last news episode. But I something worth noting. I think it might have been something that happened right around the end of July, beginning of August.
Say that again.
Senate confirms former Air Force pilot and UFO witness Matthew Lomare as the new Undersecretary of the Air Force.
Huh.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. China builds first plug-and-run quantum teleportation link. This was one that we highlighted that we wanted to talk about.
Read more about it.
What once existed only in the wildest dreams of Star Trek writers has just become cold, hard scientific fact. Chinese researchers have successfully teleported information through space using the mind-bending power of quantum physics. This isn't Hollywood trickery or clever sleight of hand. This is real teleportation happening in laboratories right now. The team at Nanjing University has pulled off something that would make Captain Kirk jealous. They managed to instantly transfer quantum information from light particles to special crystal materials with an incredible 81.8% success rate. I don't think that would make Captain Kirk jealous. I think that would just make him say, whoa, these guys are figuring it out. To put that in perspective, imagine throwing a dart blindfolded and hitting the bullseye more than 8 times out of 10, except the bullseye is smaller than an atom and the dart is made of pure light. That's pretty crazy. Dr. Xiao Song Ma and his research team have shattered what scientists thought was possible just a few years ago. Their quantum teleportation system doesn't beam people through or objects like in the movies, but it does something really equally extraordinary. It copies the exact quantum state of light particles and recreates them perfectly in a completely different location. The information literally disappears from one place and reappears somewhere else instantaneously. The breakthrough centers around using incredibly pure crystals doped with erbium ions. I like how they said doped. Special atoms that can capture and store light particles for microseconds at a time. These aren't ordinary crystals you might find in a jewelry store. These are precision-engineered quantum storage devices that operate at temperatures colder than outer space, around minus 270 degrees Celsius. The crystals are so sensitive that they can detect and store individual particles of light, something that would have been considered impossible magic just decades ago. The Chinese team used telecommunication wavelengths, the same frequencies that carry internet signals through fiber optic cables around the world. Previous quantum teleportation experiments used exotic wavelengths that couldn't work with existing internet infrastructure. This breakthrough means quantum teleportation technology could literally plug into the same networks that deliver Netflix to your living room. The experimental setup reads like something from a futuristic laboratory. The researchers created entangled photon pairs using silicon nitride microring resonators, essentially microscopic racing tracks for light particles carved onto computer chips. These chips generate pairs of light particles that remain simultaneously connected no matter how far apart they travel. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance because it seemed to violate everything we thought we knew about how the universe works. The team then performed what they call Bell state measurements, using incredibly sensitive detectors that can spot single particles of light. When they detected one particle from an entangled pair, they could instantly determine the quantum state of its partner. Even if it was stored in the crystal on the other side of the laboratory, quantum connection allows information to be transferred without any physical signal traveling between the two locations. The precision required for this experiment boggles the mind. Researchers had to synchronize their equipment to within nanoseconds. That's billionths of a second. They needed to maintain perfect frequency stability across multiple lasers operating at slightly different wavelengths. Any tiny vibration, temperature change, or electrical interference could destroy the delicate quantum states they were trying to preserve. Most remarkably, the Chinese scientists achieved an average quantum state fidelity of 81.8% and a quantum process fidelity of 73.6%. In simple terms, they successfully copied quantum information with better than 80% accuracy. Well, that doesn't sound good for people that want to travel through teleportation devices in the future. You're telling me my shit could get fucked up like 20% of the time? Like I could have an 80% accuracy, so like my DNA could be altered completely, right? That's kind of what they're saying.
That's interesting.
That's kind of fucked up because that means that
imagine you're a time traveler, right? But like when you time travel, it fucks up immediately, and kind of like how like some superheroes get powers, it just kind of makes you like lost in time, right? But also
that's kind of like King the Conqueror.
Well, hold on, your DNA is also just all just messed up and mixed around. So every time you travel in time, you look different.
Oh, that's cool. That's pretty dope, honestly.
Your body like just naturally changes to be like at the current state that it would be at that time.
Yeah. Huh.
But like not death. It always just makes you like the same age.
It just changes your like look and your like that's kind of crazy. You're like quantum state.
If you travel like 1,000 years in the future and the atmosphere is completely different, your DNA like changes around to be able to exist in that.
There's like I forget what it is, but there's like movies or something like that where that kind of is like the gist of like the idea. Like that we adapt into. There's a lot. I think Annihilation's almost like that, where everything that like goes into the blip or whatever it was, it kind of adapts to like what's happening in there. It's like almost like a parasite in a way. You ever seen that movie Annihilation?
Yeah, I've read the first book in that series. Which is just Annihilation, I think. It's really cool.
I was gonna say, is it any good? Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. The book's better than the movie.
I was gonna say the movie was pretty good. Like it was pretty fucked up, but it was good.
The movie is great. The book is better, but the main character is more hateable in the book than she is in the movie. So like that's one thing that actually kind of makes the movie better, is that you like Natalie Portman more than you like the main character of the book.
Oh, that makes sense. All right, that was interesting about the teleportation. That's going to be a thing one day, is teleportation, and hopefully
Annihilation, the that like bubble thing that they're in. It's like it's refracting everything, like how like what you were saying with DNA, like that is what it's doing.
Well, exactly.
It's refracting DNA.
That's why I was thinking about that with it, because it literally, that's like almost like the exact idea that they were talking about. It's like quantumly changing the DNA, like inside of that like area. So everything in it is affected, but everything outside of it's good. But it keeps growing, so it's gonna eventually like it's just gonna keep changing and altering everything until it reaches everything. Or at least that's what I got out of it. I don't know if that's how the book was. You said you only read the first book?
Yeah.
Is that kind of how the book was? It was like, it was constantly
your
growing.
Hypothesis again?
Well, basically, like, that thing was just constantly growing and expanding. And it was altering the DNA of everything that it was growing and expanding to, like on like a quantum level. And it was basically like, it was altering it to be like like on a dimensional level, because it wasn't that thing like almost like from another dimension. It was almost like a dimensional bleed through.
I don't know if there's an explanation about how it got there.
All right.
I think it might have come from space. I'm not sure.
It was interesting either way. That is an interesting whole situation in general. Like plot, I guess. New theories propose dark matter emerge from a mirror universe and a cosmic horizon. Cool. NASA finds multi-billion-year-old coral on Mars. This is the one that we got to read.
Yeah, that is the one we have.
This is crazy. NASA's Curiosity rover has snapped black and white images of a rock on the Martian surface that looks remarkably like a piece of coral. NASA's and also keep in mind, we did talk earlier about how this could also just be in Greenland. So maybe we're seeing a piece of coral in Greenland. NASA's Curiosity rover has sent back intriguing images of what look like a piece of coral on Mars. The strange object, in fact, a small light-colored wind-eroded rock which rover found inside the red planet's Gale crater on July 24th. But I guess this is in July, but still it counts. It was end of July. It looks remarkably similar to the reef-building creatures found in Earth's oceans. A black and white picture taken with the Curiosity's remote micro imager, a high-resolution telescopic camera that is mounted on the rover and shared by NASA in a statement on August 4th. Oh, there we go, August. Shows the approximately 1-inch wide rock with its intricate branches, 2.5 centimeters. Curiosity has found many rocks like this one, which were formed by ancient water combined with millions of years of sandblasting by the wind, NASA reps wrote in the statement. Coral-shaped rocks on Mars started forming billions of years ago, when the red planet still had water, according to the statement. Just like water on Earth, this water was full of dissolved minerals. It percolated through small cracks in Martian rocks, gradually depositing minerals and forming solid veins inside the rocks. These veins form strange branches on the coral-shaped object as we see in the Curiosity picture today. After millions of years of erosion by sand-laden winds wore away the rock. Other examples of unusual rocks found on Mars include Paposo, a strangely shaped rock measuring about 2 inches across the Curiosity, also discovered on July 24th, and a tiny flower-shaped object, which the rover photographed in Gale Crater in 2022. I'm looking at the other strange coral-looking object, and it doesn't look as crazy as the first one. And then the mineral flower, as they're calling it, if that's really a flower, that would be crazy. It does look kind of like a flower, like a petrified flower. But it could also just be like just some fucked up like rock.
Yeah.
The rover's explorations have uncovered abundant evidence that the potential for life once existed on Mars, including long carbon chains from 3.7 billion year old rocks, and signs that Mars once had a carbon cycle. Interesting. NASA's futuristic observatory could finally find aliens as it hunts for habitable worlds, experts say. A school board in Japan fires a teacher for working part-time in a convenience store. Issues apology to children for emotional damage caused from knowing their teacher has a part-time job. This is what life is like in Japan. If you have a part-time job and you're a school teacher, you're shamed.